In this episode of the UX Tea and Biscuit Break, I look at testing your own design. So let's crack on. This question came up in my Udemy class. It's from Projacta Safari, who asked, what are your thoughts on getting usability testing done by the same company who designed the product or app? What happens when the usability expert and the UX architect are the same? So I chose this question because I think there's an obvious answer, but if you think about it for 5 minutes, there's also a more interesting answer. So the obvious answer is that the agency who did the design shouldn't be the same company who tests the design for usability. That's known as marking your own homework, and there's a clear conflict of interest. It's hard to believe that the person running the test, who's an employee of the company after all, won't be pressured into ignoring problems that may have an expensive fix. Maybe the agency will encourage the user researcher to just report problems that can be fixed quickly or cheaply. I mean, at the very least, you'd expect the user researcher to self-censor themselves and not be too critical of the design in case their boss marks them down for a lack of business acumen. But I think there's more here than meets the eye. Let's take a different example. What if you're in a UX team of one? I mean, maybe your job is to do design, yes, but it's also your job to do user research. In that case, there's no one else in your company you can hand the usability testing to, by definition. You're being trusted to come up with the best design through testing and iteration. So in that example, as a UX team of one, you're like the design agency. I mean, would you be tempted to hide poor usability test results from your team in case it made your design idea look bad? So in my experience, the best practitioners in these roles, the best UX teams of one, well, they're big on learning. They want to do the very best work that they can. They want to watch where users struggle because they want to discover problems and fix them. Now, they could brush problems under the carpet, but they know that won't help the design. And I don't think any designer deliberately wants to do shoddy work just for an easy life. So I think it's okay in that situation as a UX team of one to test your own design. After all, no one else is going to do it. But let's return to the question. So Projacta talks about using the same company to do design and testing. So this isn't a question about a UX team of one. And I'm assuming that Projacta means an external company like a design agency that sells design services to clients. Now, years ago, I worked on a project like this. The agency was designing an intranet and I was hired by the client to check on the quality of the work, to audit the agency's designs and run usability tests. That was how the client avoided the agency marking their own work. But there's a clue in this example, I think. It was years ago. And I think the problem we're creating here comes from an old school way of looking at things. So these days, the best product teams are co-located, self-organising and agile. Designers, developers, user researchers all sit together, well, maybe 2 meters apart, but within earshot of each other, and people are working as a team to come up with the best design. They may not work for the same company. The designer and the user researcher might be agency staff, and the developers might be full-time employees, but they're working together. Everyone's looking to improve on the product, not pretend that problems aren't there. Now, in that situation, it's true, I'd still prefer it if there was a separate user researcher running the tests. But there's no reason why the user researcher and the designer can't be subcontracted from the same company. So this question, I think, it kind of comes from a place, an assumption that there's an adversarial role between the design agency and the client. And that I don't think that makes sense in an agile context. If the user researcher makes sure that the team observe the usability test, and they should be, it's going to be very hard to hide any problems that crop up. In this way, involving the team in the research, something I always encourage anyway, keeps everyone honest. So I could argue this one both ways, but I think the obvious answer to this question that a design agency shouldn't mark its own homework is based on an outmoded assumption about the way product teams work these days. Well, I hope that helps. If you found it useful, please give the video a thumbs up so YouTube recommends it to other people. And if there's a question you'd like me to answer in a future video, please post it below.